This is Jerry the King Lawler, and you're listening to another wrestling podcast. I don't know why you're listening, but you are.
Hey, Credo.
Hey, what's up?
Something strange just happened. I don't know. Have you seen the news lately?
No, what's going on?
It's something about the Jersey Shore. Like, it just came up on my phone that there's a bunch of people that are getting, like, murdered down there.
What?
Yeah, and it's like they're all down along the shore, and it was a bunch of people. They were out partying, and it's somewhere near, like, Pine Barrens, New Jersey.
I don't
know. And, you know the guy, Romeo Roselli, the wrestler, like, he has something to do with it, too. But people are, like, people are dying.
Wait a minute. That's not the news. That's not the news.
No, seriously, it says right here, like, that this group was at a bar, and then they got, like, thrown out because they were partying, and now, like, people are like, they're dying.
Jonathan, you're talking about the movie coming out called The Jersey Shore Massacre.
Are you sure? Because this seems pretty legit.
Jonathan, it's a movie.
Oh, okay.
Get the popcorn.
We're going to the movies.
It's time for another wrestling podcast with your hosts, Steve Credo and Jonathan Benjamin.
All right. Welcome to episode number 9, Jonathan. Can you believe it?
I can't believe it. Just the other day, I was thinking, man, I can't believe that we're at episode number 8. And here it is a week later, and we're at 9.
Time flies that we almost forget we're a digit older now. But, hey, man, it's episode 9. This is another wrestling podcast. If you're sick and tired of listening to all those wrestling podcasts, well, stay tuned because, hey, we're another wrestling podcast, right, Jonathan?
Absolutely. You're going to hear interviews from people that you've not heard from before, probably. You're going to see sights that you've never seen before. You're going to smell things you've never smelled before. If my patent goes through, actually.
The first multi-sense podcast show. We're not going to bring it just to your ears. We're trying for all the 5 senses today, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have none other than Giovanni Romeo Roselli, who is starring in The Jersey Shore Massacre, which is coming out on August 19th. He's going to be joining us in a few. You might remember him from The Wrestler, where he starred in with Mickey Rourke. Do you remember Giovanni Romeo Roselli, Jonathan?
Absolutely, and if you're listening to this podcast and you are a wrestling fan, which I'm happy that that's how you found us, but you'll probably remember him from one half of the WWE tag team, the Heartthrobs.
That's right.
It was him and Antonio Thomas, or just Antonio.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, he'll be joining us in a few minutes. We're going to talk about the movie Jersey Shore Massacre, as well as his wrestling career, and a few other questions thrown in there, so stay tuned for that. But Jonathan, man, we got one heck of a show, and if we don't do this, we're not doing our jobs, because who knows if they're going to even listen to us 20 minutes from now, but we got to throw it out there. This is how we get you guys to like us, to follow us, to tweet us, to poke us, to prod us, to whatever you want to do with us. But hey, we're not doing our jobs if we don't tell you guys. So like us on Facebook at facebook.com/another wrestling podcast.
You can follow us on Twitter at A Wrestling Pod. Even if you don't like us, you have to follow us because that's an amazing name, A Wrestling Pod.
That's all I could fit, Jonathan. It's the only characters they gave me to fit that name. So subscribe to us on iTunes and Stitcher. So if you're on a Mac, a PC, an Android, whatever, we're on iTunes. We're on Stitcher. You can follow us on there.
For those of you who are new to the podcast, we have a new thing this week that's making its way. It's our own YouTube page. So you can follow us on that at youtube.com/another wrestling pod.
That's right, Jonathan. We're taking over the social media universe, but until we do that, you can save yourself some time if you don't want to find all those links. Just head on over to anotherwrestlingpodcast.com. It's got all of our YouTube, our Facebook, our Twitter, our iTunes, our Stitcher, all those links all in one place. The mothership of Another Wrestling Podcast at anotherwrestlingpodcast.com. But with that out of the way, Jonathan, because we gotta say it to you guys to, get it out there, or else you're never gonna know where to find us, right?
Absolutely. And tell your friends, your family, anybody who you think would like us, give us a listen. And we appreciate all of the new people that are coming on and checking us out.
All right, Jonathan, well, let's get right into it, because a lot of podcasts I listen to, it takes like 15 minutes or so just to get to the interview. So I figure this week we'll get right to it.
Joining us today is Giovanni Romeo Roselli. Most of you know him from his stint in WWE. He is an all-around modern-day, what do we call that, Steve? He is a modern-day...
he does it all. He's an actor, a wrestler, an athlete. He's pretty much in everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's our pleasure to have you on the show today. So we're going to get right into this. So like I just said, most of you probably know Giovanni from wrestling. What you may not know is that he's a pretty accomplished actor. So for those of you that are just joining us, can you give us a kind of a brief... how did you cross over into acting?
Well, I believe the phrase you're looking for is I'm a true Renaissance man.
Renaissance man. See, add that to the list too.
Yes, so I believe that's what you're looking for. Being in New York and being very close to New York City, I just had the opportunity to, meet quite a few agents and casting directors, and I just kind of starting to build my resume, kind of like an independent wrestler would work his way up the ranks. I started going to acting school. I did, student films, and I did, short films for no pay, and, kind of built up my experience and my resume in front of the camera and behind the camera. And, every once in a while you catch a good break or two. You keep networking with people. I was fortunate enough to land a small role in The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke, which was definitely a highlight, to say that I acted in several scenes with someone who won a Golden Globe and was an Oscar nominee for that particular role. I've had an opportunity to work with Tina Fey several times, one in the movie Baby Mama, and I recently shot a sci-fi original movie called Battle Dogs, which was with Ernie Hudson of Ghostbuster fame, which was pretty cool. And, I just had some really good opportunities to appear on National Geographic's Brain Games program, did some work on Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, and even some soap operas with As the World Turns, Food Network shows, Restaurant Stakeout, Ham on the Street. So it's just been a really, really fun ride so far on the acting front.
Yeah, and you mentioned The Wrestler. Was it, being in that movie, was it more difficult or easier being, since it was it was like a wrestling aspect of the film? Was it different acting in that kind of a movie than, any other kind of a movie, since you are, by day a wrestler?
Yeah, it was, in one aspect, it was pretty easy. And I remember me and Ron Killings were in all the scenes together. And one of the scenes was, us at a wrestling match. And they gave us our own private trailer that was like away from the wrestling building itself. And Ron Killings was like, "Yo, dog, like, let's just go change with the rest of the guys in the locker room like we always do, instead of having to, be in these trailers all by ourselves." And so from that aspect, we were just like, yeah, we're just wrestlers. But in the other aspect, when you're acting with Mickey Rourke and you have Darren Aronofsky behind the camera, you're more than just, the wrestling character you portrayed. You need good instincts and, good facial expressions, good emotions, and you need to be conscious of all that stuff. So I think it was just kind of like a step up from being at a wrestling show, but it was a major, major step up.
Absolutely. It was a great film too, and I remember seeing it and just we go to a lot of the independent shows around the area, and a lot of people were saying that it painted wrestling into like a really dark light, but it is what it is, and I think that a lot of that showed what people didn't maybe know about the sport. So I absolutely think it was a great film. But moving forward, you have a new film coming out, and it's from Jersey Shore's JWoww, and it's called Jersey Shore Massacre. So could you first just tell us a little bit about your character in this film, and then maybe like how you got involved with this film?
Sure. So the character I play is Tony, who's pretty much the alpha male leader of the Guidos. There's obviously Guidos and the Guidettes. And the Guidos end up meeting and bumping into the Guidettes at a beach. They were playing football. And before you know it, they end up at a mysterious house where a killer is running around rampant. So it's a comedy horror, and on the comedic front, it is pretty funny at some points, and on the horror front, it is particularly gory. So if you like comedy and horror, then you'll like it, and if you don't, then you may not want to watch.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm a horror fan, so I know me and JB are planning to go see it as soon as it comes out too. But Giovanni, tell us, being a wrestler, what's your favorite movie actually featuring a wrestler? I mean, we had some of those classics with Hulk Hogan and stuff, but is there one movie for you that stands out that had a wrestler in it that you really loved?
It's weird you asked that, and the first one I think of, I just go back to my childhood. It wasn't for the acting or anything, but the first movie that I think of is No Holds Barred.
There you go.
Because I remember that was I had a birthday party. I think I was like 10 or 8 or whatever I was at the time the movie came out, and that was my first recollection of an actual movie, that starred a wrestler. And watching Rowdy Piper in several films is definitely entertaining. So, and then, of course, Batista and Dwayne Johnson, how far they've come in their acting careers is definitely commend them for that.
All right.
Now, this is, we were talking about this earlier today, but this is kind of one of those crazy moments, but you started professional wrestling around 1998. You went from training to working on the independents, going to WWE, which is what most people regard as the Mecca, then back to the independents, and now you're training wrestlers. So how does that feel to see it all come like full circle?
It is pretty crazy to think about it, and a part of that story that not a lot of people know is that I actually started working on the independent circuit, and I actually got a job in the WWE corporate offices in Stamford, Connecticut, and I worked there for approximately 2 years before I ended up moving down to OVW in Louisville, Kentucky to continue on, and then that's when I got signed, and that's when eventually we got called up. So to work in the independents in front of 5 people in a barn in Tennessee, and then to work at the WWE corporate offices where after work I would go downstairs to the gym and it would be like me, Linda McMahon, Vince, Stephanie, Hunter, and like the rest of WWE's corporate employees just working out at the gym. And then I moved to Louisville, Kentucky, started in the beginner class again, wait tables, just enough to, make weekly housing expenses, and then get signed, get released, work the independents, get into fitness, become a top fitness professional, get into acting, get into movies, keep wrestling, and then end up training, wrestlers is like, as just me saying that's like, wow, that's been quite the adventure.
All right. Now, Giovanni, when you broke into the WWE, you were one half of the Heartthrobs. Do you think your stay in the WWE would have been longer if you were probably a solo wrestler, or did you have fun doing the tag team scene?
I think it would have been longer if I had more experience. I think it would have been longer if I was a little older. I actually was only 22 years old at the time. I was the youngest guy in the roster. And what we've usually talked about, myself and Antonio, was that we were called up and we didn't have a single opportunity to work one house show. So to go from, hey, you guys are pretty entertaining act in OVW, and then bam, right to TV, there was quite a few changes that they wanted us to make, and we weren't given the opportunity to, fine-tune those changes. We were given that opportunity to fine-tune that change live, on television. So I feel like if we just had that, couple months where we just did house shows, and of course as characters, we were some of the biggest, brightest characters at the time coming up, and we didn't get a single vignette. We didn't get anything that highlighted our strengths. And that was one of the things that Paul Heyman, when he was down in OVW at the time, would sit in the room and just be like, wow, that was great. And that was coming from, Paul Heyman and Jim Cornette and Lance Storm and those guys. So, you kind of add all that up, and it's like, well, yeah, some people say we're kind of thrown to the wolves. Looking back, I'm 10 years older right now. I'm a lot more experienced, a lot more mature, but I appreciate the opportunity that I was given.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to follow up with that to where, today's day and age in the WWE, where they have NXT, to where they kind of, it's kind of like their farm system, if you will, to where they bring in guys now, and they usually stay at NXT for maybe a year, maybe two, who knows? Do you think, because I didn't know how you went from OVW straight to TV, and do you think that this whole different landscape to where they bring these guys into like NXT to work out there for a little bit before bringing them up to the main roster, do you think that's working out well with what they're doing?
I'm not completely sure, only because I don't know how the new talent is getting over, if they are getting over. I will say this, though. Ironically enough, after we got released, every single tag team started getting vignettes after us. The Highlanders got about, I want to say, 4 to 6 weeks of vignettes before they even touched a wrestling ring on live TV. And then immediately after them, Crime Time got about 4 to 6 weeks of vignettes before they even stepped in a ring. And when Crime Time stepped in the ring for the first time, they were already pretty much over because of their vignettes. And you look back and, hey, everything happens for a reason, but you say, if we had some vignettes, by the time we walked out there, we could have been over before you even wrestle. And that's kind of the goal, right? I mean, you want to have characters, you want to have personalities that are over, and then what you do in the ring just exemplifies all that.
Definitely.
Now, this kind of touches on what we're talking about here, but we've asked this question on the show before, but sometimes wrestlers don't fare so well after they've been released. You guys were, like you said, at the top of the mountain. You're in WWE, and then all of a sudden it's you're not there anymore. So, but it seems like it's almost been the opposite for you. Like you've thrived since you've left the WWE. What do you attribute your success to?
I attribute some of it to the fact that, like I said previously, I was just so young, and I realized that I still had a whole life ahead of me and a whole world ahead of me. So I wasn't going to get down on the fact that we did get released. And it's cliched, but I'm going to say that I'm one of the hardest working people you'll probably ever talk to. And that's one of the reasons why I was able to break into the entertainment industry from nothing, from scratch. And one of the reasons why I've been able to be considered one of the top fitness professionals in the country now. I actually just came back from the Nike World Headquarters over in Portland, Oregon, where they invited 150 of the top fitness pros in the country. And I was humbled to be one of them.
Oh, wow.
So it's nothing short of the fact that, you know, you get out what you put into it. And, you know, I just put in a lot of work in a lot of different areas. And one of the most important things is you learn from your mistakes. So, you know, instead of seeing something as an obstacle, you look at it as an opportunity. And that's how I've looked at everything my whole life. So the fact that I'm thriving is just a testament to the fact that I just have a very positive outlook on things.
All right. Now, we did state that, or well, you actually told us that the word we missed was Renaissance man. You are a Renaissance man. What's harder, though? Is acting, being a wrestler, a trainer, or a fitness coach? If you had to classify them or, you know, pick out of all those, what's the hardest? What would you say is?
This seems to be the golden question that I constantly get asked now. So I'll give you the answer that I give everyone else. So the very general answer that I respect all three professions so much, being able to kind of be at some points in my life, obviously, at the top of those professions. And you don't get to be at the top of the wrestling world, the top of the entertainment industry, or the top of the fitness world without a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. So I can't really number them
Sure.
as far as difficulty, but I will say though that every single person that I've had the pleasure of either being mentored by, or that I've had opportunity to wrestle with, or act with, or train with, I have so much respect for the amount of time and the amount of effort that they put into their profession, and that's why they were able to succeed. So everything has its, you know, every single one of those has its own, you know, obstacles. So, you know, with acting in front of the camera, you know, you want to look like you're not acting. You want it to look as natural as possible, you know, and that's very challenging, more challenging than people realize. And with the wrestling, you need to be all-encompassing entertainment machine. You need to be athletic. You need to be a stuntman. You need to be emotional. You need to know how to act. You need to have good facial expressions, and so on and so forth. And then with fitness professionals, you have people, you know, coming up to you, looking to literally change their lives. And that's a major, major responsibility that you have on your shoulders. And it's not just, hey, I'm going to give you a few exercises and hope that changes things. You know, I consider myself more of a coach than a trainer. And, you know, you're coaching these people through healthy lifestyle habits, through healthy nutritional habits, through positive, you know, mindsets and outlooks. So each one of those jobs is very, very challenging in its own ways.
All right. With that said, I do have a little follow-up question for that, because we know, like I said, you're an actor, a wrestler, a trainer, fitness coach. Is there anything you can't do for your fans out there? They know. Is there one thing that you just hate doing, or something that you just, I don't know, because you do it all, but is there one thing that you just hate doing?
Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that I don't like to do outside of maybe doing dishes or laundry.
There you go. All right.
I'm pretty sure
And you could ask my wife about that.
Right.
I'm pretty sure we can all pretty much agree on that, except that I can't do any of the things that you said that you can do. So I'm really bad, actually. Looking back on your wrestling career, and you know, I was fortunate enough to be at an event that you were just at, where you got to come out with staff sergeant, and you know, you seem to really enjoy that. Is there anything that you can pinpoint from your wrestling career so far that you think's your crowning achievement?
I would say one thing that certainly sticks out was when I won the New Wrestling Evolution world title in Italy. And that was just from the point of being an Italian American, winning a world championship in Italy was, you know, in front of a packed house. I want to say, I think there was 8,000 to 10,000 people in the arena. Main event. It was the last show of the tour. my father was pretty much calling me every day. My father was born in Italy, calling me every day from back home in New York, asking me how things were going. And to just hold the Italian flag over my head, in addition to the world championship, was, a feeling that I'll never forget. So that's definitely up there. And of course, all release aside, I guess, so to speak, from WWE, all hard feelings aside, I got to debut in Madison Square Garden,
Wow.
and that's something, and I get to perform in Madison Square Garden, and that's something that very few individuals in this world and very few entertainers in this world can say they've done. So being able to, wrestle in Madison Square Garden, and I knew it was full circle, as right before that, Hulk Hogan was in the building, and he came up to me and he introduced himself.
Wow.
Wow.
And the first ever wrestling show that I ever went to was in 1988, and he was main eventing against Big Boss Man in a steel cage. And I thought about that, and then he shakes my hand and introduces himself. Hi, I'm Terry. And I'm like, wow. I was like, I'm like 7-8 years old, screaming my head off in my Hulk Rules shirt, and then all these years later, me and you are on the same show together in Madison Square Garden. So between that and the Italian Championship, those are two definite highlights for me. And as you saw a couple weeks ago with the Staff Sergeant, it's just a lot of fun for me now. And I try to really appreciate every single moment I have in the ring. And, just if I have fun, then odds are the people are going to have fun too. And if they see me having fun, then they'll realize that, this is a cool show. So that's all I'm looking to do.
All right, and we're going to talk a little bit about Jersey Shore Massacre in a minute, but being an actor, is there an actor and actress you would really want to work with in the future? Anybody that's just, you're a big fan of?
Jason Statham. I really like his work. I really appreciate how he's built his career. And, I guess I would need to say that it would be cool to work with Dwayne Johnson.
Right.
And The Rock, but I obviously am better suited towards the action type roles, and that's something that I'm interested in doing more of. And I got an opportunity to do several stunt scenes for several shows in the past, and they even wrote in a scene for me in Jersey Shore Massacre to do a couple stunts. So, obviously the action and the stunt work is something that I love to continue doing more of, and just work with a lot of the top action stars and their stunt coordinators.
All right. So now that we've, the cat's out of the bag about Jersey Shore Massacre, can you give us any info on when and where your fans can see this movie?
So we're having the big world premiere in New York City on Tuesday, August 19th. That will be at the AMC Lincoln Square Theater in New York City. And Jenny J. Wow Farley will be there to introduce the movie. We'll have a nice big red carpet. We'll have a lot of cool celebrities and surprises, some mob wives, some real housewives of such and such, and some other surprise guests as well. And then it will be in theaters on August 22nd in Queens, New York, and Hollywood, California. And it's going to start in theaters at those two locations. And then it will be, I believe, on DVD and Blu-ray, iTunes, video on demand on Tuesday, August 26th. So for those of you who just want to catch it on DVD and Blu-ray and iTunes, you'll be able to do that on Tuesday, August 26th. For those of you who are in the New York metro area, feel free to come to the premiere as long as there's tickets still available, which I believe they are, on Tuesday, August 19th. And for those of you who would like to see it in theater outside of the premiere, you can catch it beginning August 22nd in Queens, New York, and for those on the West Coast, in Hollywood, California.
All right, that's great. I think we pretty much talked about everything, Jonathan, today. Is there anywhere, Giovanni, where your fans can find out about your latest happenings, like Facebook, Twitter? You can tell your fans where to find you.
Sure. So all my information's up on my website, which is just GiovanniRoselli.com. And doing the Twitter thing, it's just at Giovanni Roselli. Try to keep everything pretty simple. Facebook is official Giovanni Roselli. So if you just type in Giovanni Roselli, there's a good chance that you'll find out on my social media. But Instagram as well. I'm still getting used to the Instagram thing, starting to post some stuff on there. And all that information is up on my website, which is just, once again, GiovanniRoselli.com. So LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. If you just go to my website, you'll see all that information. And then I'll end up, my webmaster ends up posting all the latest news and events on that.
All right, perfect. Well, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. The pleasure's been all yours.
Wow, Jonathan, he really is a true Renaissance man. I mean, we talked to a bunch of guys on the show, a bunch of wrestlers, but I think this is the first time we talked to a guy who is a wrestler, an actor, a Renaissance man, pretty much. We pretty much got that out there, right?
He is a jack of all trades, a super nice guy, and it's great to see that he's doing well, and everybody go out and check out his newest movie, Jersey Shore Massacre.
That's right. August 19th, you guys can see it in New York City if you're around local to us, and I believe in LA, he said. But then also it'll be on DVD within a week after that. So guys, be sure and check them out.
Hey, Credo.
Hey.
I've got the newest, coolest thing to hit our podcast since our intro.
What's that?
It's a new game we're going to play. It's called Guess That Movie.
I'm ready.
You don't sound that excited. So the rules are simple. I'm going to read you a snippet of the movie. You're going to tell me either A, who the wrestler or wrestlers are who starred in the movie, or 2, what movie it was.
All right, I'm ready.
And now, here we go. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
John Truck is a heroic, I can't say it because it'll ruin it, who returns home after being discharged against his will from the war in Iraq. Stateside, he finds himself in action when his wife is kidnapped by a murderous gang led by the merciless Rome. With everything on the line, the blank will stop at nothing to carry out his toughest and most important mission.
Well, I was thinking of a rock movie almost, but it's none other than John Cena in The Marine.
Ding, 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 ding.
All right.
All right, well, that one was a gimme. I'm not going to say that you didn't get that, but it was easy. All right, let's see about this one. The Turtles and Shredder battle once again, this time for the last canister of ooze that created the Turtles, which Shredder wants to create an army of new mutants.
Let me stop you right there. Super Shredder, Kevin Nash, Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze.
All right, I'm gonna stop lobbing you easy ones, and then this one's gonna be it. This is gonna be a tough one.
Bring it.
Prison inmates form a football team to challenge the prison guards.
Stop you right there. The Longest Yard, not only is Kevin Nash in it, Goldberg's in it, Steve Austin's in it, the Great Khali is even in it. Did I miss anybody else in there? I don't know.
No, that's pretty much it. But I'm gonna see if you can get this last one.
All right.
Okay. This one may be tough. Okay. Chris Vaughn is a retired soldier who returns to his hometown to make a new life for himself, only to discover his wealthy high school rival, Jay Hamilton, has closed the once prosperous lumber mill to turn the town's resources towards his own criminal gains. The town is now overrun with crime, drugs, and violence. Enlisting the help of his old pal Ray Templeton, Chris gets elected sheriff and vows to shut down Hamilton's operations. His actions endanger his family and threaten his own life. But Chris refuses to back down until his home... I'm not finished. Until his hometown once again feels like home.
I'm going to have to say it's none other than The Rock in Walking Tall.
Wow. Okay, so this game did not work out as I had planned. You went 4 for 4.
Hey man, that's it. Well, that's the greatest thing though about this, because I don't know, I'm a big movie fan. I'm a big wrestling fan. I think all of us marks are out there. We're big fans of the theater, but we're also big fans about going to see the guys that we love in pro wrestling on the big screen. But Jonathan, let's talk a little bit about movies and wrestling. I mean, is it almost guaranteed for a wrestler to walk away from, let's say WWE at least, because that's where it happens. I mean, is it guaranteed for them after they reach the pinnacle of what they could do in WWE to go into the movies? I mean, for example, you have Hulk Hogan. He left WWE for a little bit, did some movies, but also still wrestled at the time. And then he did some TV shows and whatnot. But then The Rock, who I have to say is probably the biggest WWE star to ever, really make it in the movies. I mean, is that a normal transition? And who do you see leaving the WWE now to be the next biggest movie star? Is that in the future of John Cena, or will that not happen?
I think that John Cena is completely... if he went and left the WWE right now and went to movies, he would totally be backtracking and saying everything that he's put out there is like everyone would just call him a liar and whatever. I don't think it's in the cards for John Cena. But, you do have a lot of people that, let's face it, there's acting and wrestling. So, you have a lot of people that I could see very easily, like Dean Ambrose. He has a very, elegant way with words. He could be in the They Live remake instead of Piper. Any of these guys they're now being groomed. Like The Miz is in a movie right now. Summer Rae's in that movie. It's the next installment of The Marine. They have another edition of See No Evil with Kane reprising his role as Jacob Goodnight. You have, this one's the creepiest one of them all, but the Hornswoggle has just joined the ranks of the Leprechaun franchise. So I think that there's opportunities for these guys during, but like if you look at Batista, for example, he's now in like the highest ranking movie of the summer so far, Guardians of the Galaxy. So I think that all you have to do is basically show up for work one day and say, hey, is there a movie that I can be in? And bam, you're going to be put in a movie.
Yeah, and it's surprising because like when you think about it, some movies you just think about it, a lot of wrestlers have been extras or main parts, like you said with Batista recently with Guardians of the Galaxy. Even going back to, we can go back to The Princess Bride with Andre the Giant, where he was Fezzik in the movie. Little things like that, but I could just read off a ton of movies where wrestlers, made that small appearance in a movie. For example, one of my favorite 80s movies was Moving, where King Kong Bundy, it was a small appearance, but he was one of the movers on it. You had The Punisher in the 90s where Kevin Nash made a quick cameo. He was just a bad guy that beat up the Punisher. There's a handful of movies, like I can keep going with it, but I mean, it's interesting when you just read the list of all these movies. Heck, even Spider-Man, not the original movie, but the first trilogy that came out, Randy Savage was in there.
Bonesaw.
That's it, man. It's just funny how a lot of wrestlers get these movies, and you just don't think about it until you read a list of these movies, and it's amazing.
Yeah, you should go back. You find these online, but you'll find some. And that's the thing. Back in the day, it wasn't so easy for these guys to get these huge, movie roles. Now it looks like almost every movie, an action movie, these guys are in. Kevin Nash, for example, is a big one that's been in lots of the movies, but he was just in Magic Mike not too long ago. That was a big one for him. One of my favorite cameos, and that's what it was. It wasn't like a wrestler that had a whole role, but it was definitely the Water Boy with Adam Sandler, and Big Show was Captain Insano. So definitely check out that little cameo.
That's great. Yeah, man. I could just talking about these movies just makes me think about any other movies that wrestlers appeared in, and another one too was McGruber, where he had the 5-second cameo. I think you could say with Chris Jericho, Great Khali, Mark Henry. I think MVP was in it too, and maybe
MVP,
somebody else. But
yep.
It was. If you didn't see the movie, I don't want to give it away, but they're in it for like 5 minutes, but it's pretty funny. But I don't know. I just love talking about movies and wrestlers and just thinking about it. I mean, who do you think has had the most success besides The Rock and Hogan, the obvious choices? Can you think of other wrestlers that have been in a lot of movies that have probably got, a little bit more success too, just collecting a paycheck from the movies?
I would say that your next one down the line, I would say Rock's obviously the most successful. Then after that's probably Hulk Hogan. I would say not a close third, but a third would be Steve Austin.
Yeah,
after he left WWE, he did the Condemned while he was with WWE, but then he went on to do a ton of other
Expendables,
movies.
yeah,
Expendables, Recoil, Damage. He's done a ton of movies. So I think he's definitely probably the next one that, and it's tailor made for those guys. They're action heroes already. So. But yeah, he's won. Piper was pretty big in the 80s. He did several movies. I'm trying to think of anybody else that's really had a lot of success.
One last movie thing I think was probably one of my favorite movies that had a wrestler in it, where it was Man on the Moon. Where it was Andy Kaufman and Jerry Lawler, where we had Jim Carrey and Jerry Lawler. It was really cool, I think, as a wrestling fan, to see Jerry Lawler reprise the role of Jerry Lawler in the movie. And I mean, you had he still kind of looked like himself, even though he was a little bit older, but you really couldn't tell. I thought that was amazing because, I mean, instead of just seeing, Jim Carrey and Joe Schmo on screen portraying Jerry Lawler, you actually had Jerry Lawler, and it kind of made that movie more real in a sense that, you didn't really the only actor you saw was Jim Carrey, but he did such a great job as Andy Kaufman that, I don't know, it made it one of my favorite movies of just seeing a wrestler in the movie as himself,
Yeah, and I remember all the buzz about it where like Jim Carrey wouldn't get out of character, and he really wanted Lawler to like pile drive him and stuff. So I think it was obviously one of the greatest movies involving a wrestler of all time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I guess if you take it for what it is that, if you're a pro wrestler, eventually you could be the next big movie star, and that's my next question for you, Jonathan. I want you to look into your magic ball, or whatever they call it. Look into your magic crystal ball. Predict the future. Who do you see breaking away? Give me your top 5 guys of who you see that could be the next big movie star, like pretty much Hulk Hogan and The Rock is right now. Who do you see being another one of them in the near future?
Well, I mean, I think obviously right now that I see Roman Reigns possibly at some point getting a movie, and if he ever decides to leave WWE, he's got that build for like an action star. I think that he would definitely be one. I mentioned Dean Ambrose earlier. I definitely think he would be interesting to be in some sort of like thriller movie. I think also one that's probably going to be surprising maybe is Cesaro. I think that he would be really cool. He almost looks like Jason Statham already, so I think that would be good. I don't think we've seen the last of Chris Jericho in movies. I think that he probably could do really good. And I would say as far as women go, I think that we could see possibly Paige being in a movie.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talent out there, and it will be surprising to who will be the next breakaway movie star, and I guess we'll just have to wait for that. But once again, Jonathan, I want to give a special shout out to Jersey Shore Massacre, JWoww, especially Giovanni, Romeo, Roselli for joining us on another wrestling podcast, episode 9 today. If you guys didn't get your tickets for the premiere on August 19th, go get them now. It's debuting in New York City on Tuesday, so if you're listening to this, head on down there, get your tickets, go to check out the debut. If not, wait a week and it'll be on DVD, so be sure to check them out, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and be sure to check us out too. we've given you all the links in the beginning, but if you've missed it, just check us out at anotherwrestlingpodcast.com. It'll have all the information for you on there.
That's right, the mothership of all of our social media universe, I guess you could say.
Absolutely, and thank you for joining us on
Another Wrestling Podcast.